What's up, folks? It's 2Bricks, and I am so excited to show you today's video because we have a massive amount of progress that has been done here on the Venator. I'm going to be taking all this progress off to show you guys everything that I've done, including on the interior. But before we start all that, I just wanted to give you some angles at the completed section where I'm leaving off for this week's video. From this side, because I'm going to be switching this, turning it back around to face the normal direction that it faces, and that's a pain in the butt to do, so I just wanted to show you guys this before I get started. So as you can see, the front half of the Venator is practically done. I mean, there's a few things here and there, a couple of bits and bobs that I still want to work on, but you know, inside of the hangar bay, we'll be taking a look in there in a little bit. The exterior hull plating all the way down to the break point here, which is where the back half will be a separate piece, is all pretty much done. So super excited for this. And yeah, the details that we won't really be able to see is stuff like what's down here in this greeble trench, which is unique. Each side has unique detailing. So I just wanted to give you guys a look at that before we proceed. So there that is. I really hope that you enjoy taking a look at the Venator today. It's been a month of consistent work on this every day to get it to this stage. Constant trips to Bricks and Minifigs to stock up on bulk brick to be able to get to the stage where I could actually get these whole plates finished. And I've still essentially exhausted my entire collection of light bluish gray elements to be able to do this. I mean, functionally speaking, I do still have a lot more parts that are unsorted, but all of my bins have been depleted to get this done. So yeah, this has been a mammoth task. So hopefully you guys enjoy taking a look at the progress today. Like I said, there is a lot of it, including interior. Of course, you guys know I'm doing an interior for this if you've been following along with the series. And there's actually more interior to come later on, but I'm going to show you what I have for today. So super exciting. So stay tuned for that. And I just want to, before we get going here, give a quick shout out to all of my folks over on Patreon who are helping me to literally be able to afford the Lego bricks, because I am buying this, you know, myself. I'm not sponsored. I'm not getting like sent a bunch of bulk from Lego. I'm going out and I'm purchasing all the parts for this myself. And as you can see, there are a lot of them. So for all of you folks who are helping to support me on Patreon, or who are helping through like purchasing of instructions and things like that, I just want to give you guys a huge shout out, because this is not a cheap endeavor. So yeah, let's get into the rest of the video. I'm gonna basically strip all this down to its bare bones and show you kind of build up section by section what I did to get to this stage. I didn't manage to capture any time-lapse footage this time around because it's such chaos up here, the way that I'm working and stuff, and like a lot of things are just kind of like mirroring one half to the other, like, you know, these two massive hull plates here, and me just literally counting like, okay, one of these, then one of those, then this part comes, and then going over to the other side and be like, okay, I'll put one of those, and then build that part. So it's kind of like a lot of like stop and go, and it's not very fun to watch even in time-lapse form. So I basically didn't worry about that for this week, but I'm making up for it by having lots of progress to show. So no more waffling, let's get in, let's take a look at the video. I'm gonna strip all this back and let's go. All right, so actually I didn't start off by turning it around because I realized, I haven't shown you the interior on this side yet, and it would be a shame to have to flip it back around once I did that. So starting off with just a look at everything stripped off. So the main hull plates, the doors. So where I started this previous round of progress after the previous video ended is that I actually took off a bunch of the stuff that I had done, because I was realizing that this hangar bay here is really not sturdy enough for what I need. And also it was sitting a little bit higher than I needed it to, or than I wanted it to. And the reason for that is that I actually built the hangar bay kind of first, like as a complete thing out of bricks and plates stacked up. And then I started to build the Technic frame around that and underneath that, and then bring the Technic frame out from that point. So I kind of had like a sturdy spine to start building on, and then I went from there, right? The problem with that was that because it ended up sitting on top of the Technic frame, where it was lining up, it was just too high relative to the edges of the ship here, and I just wasn't able to fit what I wanted to in here in terms of the hangar bay doors and stuff like that, and the ships having the room to run down the trench here and out the front door realistically. I actually slightly tweaked the front door design as well. So there you go. And so what I had to do is essentially rebuild all of this. So I took it all off. I lowered it down by, I think, a full brick height, maybe a little bit more. And then I rebuilt it and I infused Technic throughout, going into the frame, into the central spine underneath, because there's already a Technic spine under there. And then I just built it up to be even stronger and sturdier so that it could support its own weight and so that the front here wouldn't be sagging, which it was starting to do a little bit. And now it's super, super, super sturdy. So once I had that platform built, I figured, okay, so this is a good point to start. So I just had this gray strip here, and I'll just show you guys, it is actually a lot cleaner than it was in the previous iteration. I actually redid the decoration up here as well, for the the lights to indicate go this way. And then I also added the caution tape along the side, which is something that you see in the Incredible Cross Sections book as well. And I actually wanted to add these ones here. Sorry, focus, there you go. From the official Ghost set, I believe, the most recent Ghost set, because this came with the Orbesh on it, and I figured, why not have a sign that actually says caution in Orbesh, which is the Star Wars in-universe language. That would be a cool thing to add, so I added those in there as well. And then I kept, I maintained the little doors that go to some sort of storage room off to the side, which in my particular Venator goes nowhere. But yeah, that's all the same. And then I just made sure that this was as tiled off and as nice as it could be, with still leaving plenty of studs to actually attach starfighters and things to be taking off. So that was job one. So once that was done, then I started to build out from that, right? Technic, again, coming out support structure underneath here that I could then build plates on top of. And then those plates became the hangar bays that we see. Really, we only get one proper shot of it in Revenge of the Sith, but I'm pretty sure that we see these a bunch in the Clone Wars cartoon as well. And so I started to build out the platforms for that. This is a little scene here. I'll tell you what that's about in a second. I'm sure you could probably guess already though. So I ended up going with the design of smaller hangar bays to the front. And these are large enough for like a single man starfighter, like an Eta 2 or another type of Jedi starfighter, Delta 7 maybe, to fly out of. And then these are all connected as one thing, so your fighter will enter, perhaps come down and park, or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to keep that open so that it doesn't feel too restricted, and that's cool. And then we have a slightly bigger set of hangar bays here, where I'm using the doors on their side technique with the transparent windows in the door inserts to give a slightly larger, so taller and wider doorway there. So that's for things like Y-wings, what are they called? Headhunters. Z something headhunters. My brain is going blank right now. V-wings and things of that sort. Then we move on to the larger. So these are two pieces, but they're meant to represent one large door opening there. And this is for the areas where we see like Obi-Wan doing his briefing scene. So you can see there's LAAT gunships, there's Eta 2s, there's V-wings, and other stuff in the hangar there that's ready to take off, and those have the room to go out of those larger doors there. And then this patching on the ground here, I believe what this represents from Revenge of the Sith is the elevators that will, the platforms that will actually raise the craft up to the main flight deck from below, because as we discussed before, there is storage underneath here where starfighters are kept. And then in the Clone Wars show, we see that there's actually doors and elevator platforms all throughout this section as well. But I think Revenge of the Sith, the only shot that we really get of it is here, and we see that there's just these small platforms, and Obi-Wan is briefing his troops, getting ready to go to Utapau. So I replicated those with the designs on the ground with the red and the gray striping. And then back here, I also integrated this little crane, because there is a crane visible. It's kind of hard to see in that scene in Revenge of the Sith. And I'm imagining that crane could, move across the room. And then, of course, the crane arm can move up and down this structure here, and it can have access to all the different starfighters and bring over, new parts that need to be switched out, or lift astromech droids into their droid sockets if need be in the backs of starfighters and things like that. So then we have some door openings throughout all the way down, and then a corridor outside represented with this black trim that goes all the way around. There are some parts like this where the underneath structure, which I'm using these string pieces, these official Lego string pieces, to actually hold the structure together and to keep the bottom plates lifted up. I'm actually covering where those come through and loop around with these little kind of implied bits of machinery, or I don't know, some kind of, what is it, a generator or something? I don't know. But just to have some sort of Star Wars-y details to cover those up. But this is supposed to be a regular corridor. And you can see here I'm continuing with the little entryways all the way down, so it does feel like troops can actually get in and access the hangar bays. They're not just cut off. But I did figure that it would probably be smart to have these bulkheads not have doors going from one hangar to the other, just in case of an emergency, if they needed to lock down certain bulkheads to prevent decompression or something in the event of an attack. If one of the hull plates gets breached, it would make sense to not have connecting doorways between the hangar bays like that. So yeah, these are here to support not only the plates that go on top, but to actually reinforce the structure. So a lot of these line up with the actual frames that I have here, within the actual Technic structure. And then, so this one here lines up with that. And then this one's just a floating one, but I wanted to, separate out the hangar bays and make it a little bit more sturdy. And you can see here another one that's just kind of corresponds to the hangar bays shrinking, but doesn't actually have a support structure underneath it. And then going down here, the hangar bay just goes as far as seems practical to me, because I don't think there's hangar bay doors all the way down to the very, very end like that. Doesn't really make sense. There's not really the room for it, so that's where that terminates. And I think it looks great. Okay, so then what's all this about over here? So you guys may be familiar with the Lego MIDI scale series of starships. So here we have, these are the little insert figurines little micro representations of Princess Leia, C-3PO, and R2-D2 from the Tantive V4, which is actually, that model is actually to scale with this ship. So obviously these are oversized representations of characters, and I wanted to do something similar, but actually to scale with my sets here. So what I've done is I've buried these lightsaber bar pieces inside of Technic pins in the floor to represent a little scene. So here we have Darth Maul getting ready to take on and absolutely obliterate this entire platoon of clones, like he does in season 7 of the Clone Wars when he makes his big escape and he's running loose on the Venator. I thought that would be a fun thing to do. And then I just have a little scene on the other side, which I'll show you when we get over there, that just represents a couple of characters that we know and love from the show, just kind of chilling and having a conversation. So I'm probably going to do a few more things like this throughout the Venator. And then, I'm going to kind of expand out a little bit of what's going on here in these gaps to create some other little areas, and also take inspiration from what we see in the incredible cross sections to kind of flesh out the interior of this, so that when we take off these panels, which I want to be able to do, for display purposes, to be able to show off the interior of this, I want to see nothing but Venator insides. I don't want to see all the rainbow plating underneath here. So we're going to have a bunch of rooms and interior things, as well as, just stuff that we would want to see in terms of like the inner workings, the pipes and the things that, run air around the ship and all that kind of stuff mixed in. And so we can have a fully fleshed out deck here, because I really like how all of this looks. I think it would be a shame to break the suspension of disbelief completely when you then see all of this stuff down in here. See how the sausage is made, so to speak. So yeah, that's the idea behind that. And I think that's going to work out really well. I have to sort of figure out exactly how I'm going to do that later on down the line. So after I built up these hangar bay doors, and then after I built up the hangar bay itself, the actual ship hangars themselves, I then built this structure right here. So what I did is I wanted to have a support that would run all the way down, that would be flat for the doors of the Venator to sit on, so that they could have a flat surface that they could slide on to open and close. So what I did is I took my handy dandy cotton thread, and I threaded it from here. So I just clamped it down with a couple of Lego parts here, and I threaded it all the way back using measurements that I took from my digital model to basically have it line up with the height that the doors are supposed to be over here. And then I used that thread as a a marker, you know, to get the angle correct. And then I basically just built, I started in the middle here, and I built a little section where it's held up with the Technic lift arms, and there's some Technic bricks running through here. And then I just kind of got them to sit at the correct angle so that it lined up with the string. And then I just started expanding outwards in both directions. So continuing to build this out with connected Technic bricks with you know, Technic pins holding them in so that it would be nice and strong. And then Technic lift arms periodically hooking into the base of the ship here where it, you know, felt appropriate, where it would actually line up with the angle that I need. So what I ended up with is a very sturdy structure up here that can actually support a fair bit of weight. You know, the doors aren't that heavy, but I needed them to be able to support a decent amount of weight and still be sturdy. And then once I got down to the front here, I just hooked it in. So you can see here the Technic structure that connects into the regular flat built portion of this pins in to the other side of this angled portion. So that's the same on both sides there. So once that's connected in, it actually helps to keep the whole front section again lifted, because again, it was starting to sag on me a little bit. And this is sort of like a suspension bridge holding up the whole thing, and it works really, really well. And then as we go towards the back here, as we see in the back here, you can see that it just sort of terminates back here with the bricks that are holding up the whole back section. And that's it for now. And then I'm probably going to figure out a way to tie that in a little bit better, to, like, you know, tie in the structure a little bit. And then once I continue the next portion of the ship, that'll obviously have to be figured out super precisely. So so yeah, that's that. This is just the back side of the hangar door entrance there. You can see the mini kit hiding out in there around that corner. It's a little Easter egg. You can see down in here through the view into the rest of the hangar, so that's really cool. But obviously this is really meant to be looked at from this side. So you can see here we have the termination of the hangar bay with the little overlook tower there. And actually I took some inspiration from Revenge of the Sith, and I also added these secondary little you know, towers up here. So these little kind of bridge overlook thingies where it doesn't work. Where I guess clones would be, you know, directing air traffic and stuff, coordinating and making sure that nobody is colliding in the hangar bay and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. And then you can see that I've plated off along the inside of this frame just to make it match up a little bit more nicely to the inner edge of the standard built portion of the hangar. And that covers it up very nicely all the way down to the end there. So it all feels very nice and finished up and natural and good. So yeah, I haven't actually completed that on this side just yet, just the plate coverings, nor have I finished building up the brick work on the inside here to its final height. So that will be coming soon. But yeah, I just wanted to you know, pause and actually get this video shot because it's been a while. So the plan is I'm going to do lighting on the interiors of all of these hangars so that when you open the doors, you'll be able to see the illuminated blue hangars on the inside there, looking just like they do right now, looking absolutely stunning with the light coming down through from my skylight here. So that's nice and handy. But obviously I want to be able to do that with the panels and everything on as well. So lighting is going to be a must for that. That'll be something that I figure out probably towards the end of the project as everything's wrapping up, winding down. I'll be then installing lights everywhere. And it's such a large model that I don't think I'm going to have any issues running lights because, you know, there's plenty of room to figure things out in terms of where I want stuff to go and how I want it to get there. So yeah, super thrilled with how that all came out. And then next up, I made the doors. So here we have the doors in place. So you can see here, I used a mixture of dark red and reddish brown. I also used a lot of different types of parts. I used a lot of wedge plates stacked up against one another to get that kind of pattern that we see on the door, where we have, you know, these diagonal lines kind of cutting across. Here I just experimented with leaving a little gap to see how I like that, and I do like that quite a bit. And then of course we have areas of, you know, flat, large, no detail sections, and then little high frequency details in here, which is my kind of signature thing that I like to do, which is very Star Warsy. And sorry, I'm just trying to line this plate up, this tile. And that's obviously how reflecting what the actual details of the Venator truly look like. And then I really want it to be nice and intricate with the details that run along the side of this as well. So this is the section that opens up and it kind of slides along here, and then this part underneath is the static frame. And I wanted it all to feel like it kind of blends into one thing, and the level of detail is consistent throughout. There's these little sort of bridge control tower, again, looking kind of things. I don't know exactly what those are, but those are present on the real design. And then you can just see down here all the little details that are sandwiched in. And I'm using, hollow studs to add extra layers of depth to make it feel like there's sort of either windows or recessed areas that go in a little bit deeper, and then regular studs, and then obviously tiling off some parts as well, and then all kinds of clip and bar and hinge pieces to give the little small details that we like to see on a Star Destroyer. So up here at the top, we have these large tiles, which I have in brown. I didn't have those in dark red, and you can see those just allow for the sliding to be nice and smooth across there. I have this stickered element here, which I really like, which is sort of like the, again, reinforcing the ships go that way kind of feel. I may end up switching that out, I don't know, but I quite like it. And then here you can see that the doors are clamped into place using this little assembly right here. So we're using these sort of Z-shaped brackets that are then clamped in with Technic holding them in so that they keep the top of the door squished down nicely and also keep it nice and horizontal, or flat relative to the frame underneath, to prevent them from sagging, because if those aren't there, then the middle of the doors do want to start to dip down. So that was important to me to not have that. These little detailed areas are try to be really faithful to the shapes. I looked at a bunch of different references of what those look like, tried to keep that nice and consistent. And then in Revenge of the Sith, this whole section here is sort of another set of doors that then also open up, and Obi-Wan is seen flying out through that. I'm obviously not representing that here, but you can kind of imagine this area is where that would be. And then in that shot actually is where we saw these sort of little bridge type structures back here that I wanted to, that was the reason that I wanted to replicate that, is because I was looking at the shot of Obi-Wan flying out through that little small opening door within a door. And so I wanted to be able to replicate that detail in there as well. So if we look down here at the front, this all comes together very nicely. Sorry, I'm having trouble focusing today. This all comes together very nicely, and there's just a little bit of a gap underneath there, which is kind of essential because of the functionality of the doors. So let me just show you back here. So I like to just use these to spread the doors apart. So the way that it works is that they just simply slide along that Technic frame that sits underneath here, and then there's a 1 plate thick lip that runs along the inside of this door, and then that just catches and prevents it from going any further. And then under here there's actually a bracket that sticks down that prevents it from going in any further than it should, so that keeps it in place. So those just slide nicely. And then from the front here, I was very happy to just have this close up fully at the front, but folks on my Discord were urging me to try to figure out a way to have the doors open at the front as well, so that it's a more consistent open gap throughout, like what we see in the show. So prior to this, I had these assemblies right here that were holding the doors in place, and they would just move side to side, right? That's what allows for the scissoring to happen. So there's ball joint holders down in here holding those in, you can see. And then I swapped those out for these assemblies, which achieves the same exact thing so that this can move in and out, but then the additional turntable here allows for a second degree of rotation, which then allows the doors to open out to the sides, in addition to opening up at the back as well. So there's double openability here. So now we have the full look of the trench, where ships can really fly in and have a lot more freedom and a lot more area here to land, especially small fighters towards the front, that they didn't have previously. And I mean, that just looks absolutely spectacular, doesn't it? That looks so good. So yeah, thank you to specifically Tritix on Discord for pushing me to try to figure out a solution for that. And I'm really glad that I did, because it looks great. So there's a little view down into the hangar bay there. Let's see if I can get the focus to do something here. Yeah, that looks absolutely spectacular. Love it. Can't get enough of it. There you go. So those are the doors. And then the next thing that I did was I ordered the parts to build multiples of many of the ships that I have developed at this scale. So obviously these are the ships that I want to populate the hangar bay. And then I also designed a couple of new ships. So we have here the V-Wings and also a new version of the V-19 Torrent. And of course I was inspired by the new LEGO set to have another crack at that because that LEGO set is excellent. And I have a bunch more Eta 2s and other ships in here as well. So I'm going to actually show you those really quick up close, and then I'm going to put them in the hangar bay where they belong. So beginning with the V-19 Torrent, you can see here I have two versions, a landed and a flight version. And I'm using the old style of minifigure clip at the end there with the thicker reinforced look. And that just kind of actually really mirrors what we see in the actual craft. And then also I'm using a gold horn piece to represent the cockpit because as now been sort of made clear to me anyway, that the cockpit actually should be yellow on the V-19. And then we have the folding wings here. So the wings can fold on both the landed and the flight version here. And then we have the wing underneath. So the only thing is obviously making that wing on the underside flip up and around and engage with the design like this was really, I mean, it was impossible. So what I did is I just built a separate landed version for that. And then you can see here, it hugs right up to the part where the cockpit actually is. And in fact, the cockpit is attached to the wing on this particular build. And so it's a slightly different configuration from this here. And I really like this update because it's way more accurate. It's way scaled down compared to the previous one, which is already massively overscaled. So this one's only a little bit overscaled. And so I really like this update and I'm glad that I did it. And just for the sake of reference, here's what my old V-19 looked like. Absolutely atrocious in comparison to the new one. So there you go. The next thing I did is design another one of these cannons, or not design, duplicate one of the cannons because I wanted to order the parts for the remaining cannons that I needed, but I wanted to see if I could build a few out of my currently existing parts collection because ordering parts on Bricklink can get really expensive really fast, especially with shipping and tax and stuff on top. So I wanted to see if I can at least do one more, and I was able to. And I think maybe I could squeeze a third before I have to order parts, but yeah, it's getting really tight. So yeah, there's that. And then of course we have in here the pre-existing Y-Wing designs that I have here, the Clone Wars era Y-Wings, of course. This one being the one that represents the Captain Rex Ahsoka Showdown version at the end of Clone Wars Season 7. And then these being the ones that flew with Ahsoka when she had her devastating first mission that went wrong when she was in command and she lost almost her entire platoon of troops, and that was very devastating for Ahsoka. So we have both versions, kind of both relating to Ahsoka, which is funny. And here we have the V-Wing. So this is a ship that I never had in my fleet before, and I felt like I really needed to include it, especially given the fact that in the hangar bay scene that I was referencing, you could actually see some parked V-Wings in the back. And these do get recolored in Revenge of the Sith at the end to be gray because the Empire has taken over and the Republic has fallen and everything becomes gray and nasty. So here we have a minifigure hand piece to represent the cockpit, which I really like how that turned out. So it's plugged into this ingot piece in the back, and then the kind of wrist portion of the hand there represents the actual cockpit. So I'm really fond of that. And then I'm using these two sort of claw, horn, spear tip pieces. I'm not sure exactly what those are, at an angle to represent the really specific shape of the cockpit, and then these handlebar pieces for the wings. Again, this is probably a little bit overscaled, but you know, there's not really any point in me just creating like a blob, just like a too long plate and saying like there's a V-Wing, that's what that represents. I'd rather actually overscale it slightly and be able to give you guys the detail, especially since we're dealing with this monstrosity here, which can definitely accommodate slightly overscaled ships in its hangar bay. So just know that probably all of these are a little bit overscaled in one way or another. They're either too chunky, or like certainly the wings are too thick. Even if they're one plate thick, they're still way too thick. But that's just kind of how some of these things go, but it's fine. So it has the landed configuration here. So you literally just rotate the clip that is holding the wings, and that's how the V-19 comes in for landing. There's actually been several depictions of landed V-Wings in canon. The one in Revenge of the Sith looks like this, where the wings just sort of rotate down. but there's been multiple ones, and you know, you can kind of nitpick what your favorite one is and how I should have done it that way. But this way allowed me to get the shape of the shape of the wings to be correct to how I want them to be by using these handlebar pieces, and it allowed it to rotate down and be in landed configuration as well without having to make a special landed version. So I'm super happy with that, and I think that was the right call to make. So there's the V-wing. And we just have a bunch of ARC 170s and a bunch of LA-AT gunships. I did slightly update the LA-AT gunship because since I was going to be ordering a bunch, I didn't want to have to order those finger hinge pieces, and I instead replaced them with the regular clip and bar pieces because the difference is minimal, but the cost is gigantic. So yeah, I did go ahead and make that swap out. And then the ARC 170 as well got a little bit of an update. So it now has the underside, that red portion represented a lot more prominently, or well, represented at all. It wasn't there before. And then I actually slightly tweaked the back here as well of how it was in my previous design. And I just used a rounded or half-rounded plate at the front, or sorry, tile, to represent the nose tip a little bit better than just using the regular square tiles like I was using before. And then I just updated that design and then ordered enough to make, what is it now? 7? 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. And then 7 LA-AT gunships as well. And then here I just brought out my ETA class shuttle, the Jedi shuttle back there with the ball cockpit, and then the Z95 headhunter because I just want to have those in the hangar bay. And then lastly, you can see here we have a bunch of ETA 2 and Delta 7 starfighters. So I got Plo Koon's dark blue, sort of stripy Delta 7 here, which he uses all the way through till his death in Revenge of the Sith, spoiler alert. Anakin's Azure Angel, which again has been slightly tweaked to be just a little bit more size accurate, which is from the 2D animated Clone Wars. This is Obi-Wan's Delta 7 from the Attack of the Clones movie. This is Yoda's, this is the first time I've represented this one, Yoda's modified ETA 2 that has the weirdly shaped wings and is very stubby in comparison, and doesn't have the sort of forward mandibles that the regular ETA 2s have. Then we have Anakin and Obi-Wan's ETA 2s from Revenge of the Sith. And this one right here represents Obi-Wan's second ETA 2, which I had not previously built either. So this is the one from the briefing scene where Obi-Wan says he'll have to destroy not all of the droids until Cody arrives. This one is got the purple on it, so this represents Mace Windu's, although canonically I'm not sure if that's actually accurate. I just saw an image online that had purple, and I thought that fit for Mace. This one represents Ahsoka's, so we're switching out the gray for white on this and then using the dark red accents. Then this one here with the green accents is supposed to be Saesee Tin's, or Saesee Teen, I don't know how to exactly say that guy's name. He has a green and gray one that we see in the Clone Wars 2D show. Then this one here is actually a more accurate version of Obi-Wan's, because the wings, I had selected dark red for the wings on Obi-Wan's version, but really the wings are predominantly gray with just a little bit of dark red accent. So I actually am deciding which one of these I want to keep as Obi-Wan's official one. I'm just used to the way this looks, but this is technically more accurate, so this will just get designated as a different Jedi ship. I'll find one that matches. This one here is Anakin's Delta 7 from the Clone Wars show, so the one he predominantly uses throughout the Clone Wars. This one here is a special 2 bricks color scheme. So this is me inserting myself into the Jedi world there and flying around in my own custom Delta 7. And then this black and gray version here is, I'm going to canonically say this is Vader's. He was working on it when he was still Anakin Skywalker, but he really wanted to have an all-black cool version. And we do see in the comics, and probably elsewhere, Vader flying around in his very early days in a black ETA 2 Interceptor. And I figured he probably had that stashed away somewhere. He probably just didn't want to show anyone because they'd call him a poser for having a black and dark gray ship like he's Batman. So that's that version right there. All right, so here is the hangar bay on the one side of the ship, populated here with all of the ships looking like they're getting ready to deploy. Super happy with all of that. It just looks so, busy and fleshed out and full of life with all of this stuff going on. And then what I wanted to do is leave this section blank for now, because what I want to do is actually take some inspiration from my friend Rich Boy J and his we miss you, Jay, come back, make some more videos, and his awesome idea that he would always do of the Boyle Lounge for all of his large mocks, where the people who've contributed financially to the success of the mock get represented in there in some way. Sorry, I have dog fur everywhere. I have 2 dogs now, so I've doubled the fur. So what I wanted to do is actually take some inspiration from what I was showing you guys earlier with these characters, and I actually want to represent all of my top tier patrons in here as characters, as have their avatars represented, as characters here on the Venator. So I think that'd be really, really fun. And I'm thinking that the way I'm going to do it is using the Star Wars character avatars that I've been creating for my $4 and up patrons. I'm going to actually convert those into Lego nano figures like this, and I'm just going to line them up in here like troops ready to deploy into battle. So that'll be a fun little tribute to everybody who's literally helped me be able to afford to make this thing, because I cannot afford it by myself, and you guys have all helped immensely. All right, and here you can see I have turned the Venator around. My goodness, that is quite a task. I don't want to do that too often. And here you can see I've populated the hangar bays once again. So I've recreated the specific scene here of the briefing between Obi-Wan, Cody, and the rest of the clones getting ready to go to Utapau. I have one here that's mid takeoff, heading out the door. And then in this hangar here, we have Obi-Wan and Anakin planning the Chancellor's rescue. And there's, I'm assuming, Oddball, who is the sort of lead of the ARC 170 wing there. And then we have the section dedicated to the Clone Wars and sort of miscellaneous Jedi starfighters there. And we have the sort of going backwards in time as well there. We have the non-canon ones here off to the side. So, I mean, Vader 1 is canon, but not canon to this time period, you know what I'm saying? And then the custom 2 bricks one. So the thing I was mentioning about the my take on the Boyle Lounge, I'm probably going to do it on this side, because this is the direction that the Venator will probably be facing for most of its life. And I'll probably just put some other small ships populating this section back here instead. And then that will be, that'll work out better, I think, overall. So yeah, now that I've turned this around, you can kind of get a look at some of the Greeblies down here. A lot of it is unchanged, although some of it is changed from what you've seen previously. Something that I've started to do as well. I mean, in addition to populating the heck out of all of this with bricks and details and things. But yeah, something I started doing here, like for example, here I've done this on the other side quite a bit as well, is adding in frame to basically clean up this underside edge here. So a lot of this is just plates, and some of it isn't as clean as I would like. So in order to make sure, so for example, right here, right, I'm gonna fill this in with a little bit of extra detailing. And then that way you just get a nice cleaner edge. And you'll see here when I put the top plates on, it just makes it match up to what you see top and bottom a little bit more nicely. So that's kind of an ongoing project as well. You can see this part in here could probably use a little bit of that as well here. So yeah, just kind of making that edge look nice and straight how you'd want to see it. So yeah, let's get the doors back on and the hull plating in. Oh wait, sorry, before I do that, just wanted to show you here. Also, I have populated the actual trench. So we have a V-wing in flight mode there, taking off. And again, an LA-AT that's just taxiing out onto the runway. We have the flying V-19 is already on its way. And then an ARC 170, again, entering into the area to begin to fly off. And then I didn't show you guys before, but up close here, we have the mini kit hidden away in the back there. It was part of the trench Greeblies, but it actually was a little bit too attention grabby. So I wanted to actually make it a little bit of a hidden Easter egg for people to spot in future. And then you can see down in here, I've actually used some of these stickered elements that have these kind of Imperial or Republic type of insignia or decor on them with the sort of blue stripes and stuff. And I wanted to incorporate that a little bit in addition to the physical brick-built ones that I have here as well. And then back there, you can just see the doors that lead off the side. Those are for the troops to enter in and out of. And then back here, we have these sort of blast doors, which I assume ships and other vehicles could enter and exit through depending on what's actually back there. So this is actually different from the way that it was previously, because this sat way further back. And when I attach the rest of the structure back here, I'll just talk you through that and some decisions that I made regarding the hangar and the shape of everything. So yeah, let's get to that. But yeah, by next update, this will all be nice and cleaned up and filled in. and the plates will be running alongside here, and it will all match up with this nicer finished side right here. So, and like I mentioned before, I had a tiny little scene over here that I wanted to depict, which is just Anakin and Obi-Wan having a conversation with Commander Cody. And of course, that is in the same style as the Darth Maul little scene that I have on the other side there. And that's just that. And just getting a look at the scale, right? If you think of those as human beings, thinking about the scale of a Republic Venator class Star Destroyer, and this is half of one, right? The other half is not yet built and back there. It just gives you a sense of just how absolutely bonkers massive Star Destroyers are. And Venators aren't even that big when it comes to Star Destroyers. So, whew, man, Star Wars ships are crazy. Luckily, they operate in zero gravity, where weight doesn't really matter, doesn't factor in. All right, so here is the major hull plating back on the Venator. Obviously, you can see a large gap here. That's, these back here waiting to be inserted. But I'll just show you guys the details and stuff that we have on here really quick. So try to keep everything, consistent. Try to keep the trim nice and consistent while still matching the angles. We're switching between this geometry of plate here, the 3x6s, and also the same angle of the 2x3s, and then the 2x4 plates there to kind of step this along at the correct angle to the frame that I have built. So that's a different technique to what I have going on underneath, where I just simply built up to the edge and then fill in some of the gaps with extra bits of plating and stuff. And then the way that all of this kind of sits in here, so I basically just have strategically placed bricks and some brackets and things along the way underneath here that just prevent this from sliding off the edge of the hull. So it's just pinched in to that, and then the shape underneath here is built up to support exactly the right height for, underneath on the hangar base. So that just keeps all of this at the correct height. And then there's a lot of areas here where this sort of tucks in underneath this frame section and keeps it at the correct level. So there's a lot of, different support things underneath here keeping this in play. I actually did previously have this whole section built up to about here-ish, or maybe even further back, and I took it apart and completely rebuilt it, and I actually ended up building these two symmetrically for a time, and then I paused on one side, and then I finished the other side completely, and then I went back and duplicated that. And the reason that I did that is because once I changed the shape of the underlying structure and got all of this figured out on top, the shape of what I was kind of proposing to myself would be the shape didn't end up lining up anymore. And so I just ended up saying it'll be quicker to just redo the whole thing. And that's what I did. So, I kept all of the details and the way that it was done before, but I just completely redid it. So all these little kind of recessed areas with the greebly details in them, it's actually unique. Either side has a unique look to it. And then so for example, this area is recessed down quite far from the surface. So the way that the hangar bay and stuff is constructed underneath, I kind of had to go alongside, do this, figure it out, try it out, put it in place, make adjustments to what was beneath, go back and then finish this, and et cetera, to make sure that it actually all fit with the underlying structure. So that was all a big pain in the butt. But I think that the result looks absolutely marvelous. I actually came up with a new technique for doing this section here compared to what I had before, which is just that there is a hinged plate under here that is just holding this sub-assembly in under here, and then it's just sort of pinched in place with plates and things, and that just creates the little kind of window effect, which I really, really love. That's mirrored on the other side there as well. But all of the sort of surface detailing is similar, but unique on either side. So there's a lot of visual interest to capture your eye as you're looking over this whole thing. If you're going to be if I ever make it to a convention or something, you could spend a long time looking at the different ways in which things were achieved on one side and then compare it to the other and see that there are differences, and that's cool. So there's a couple of areas here where, for example, I have the sideways built sections, like I was mentioning, that I wanted to do that to just give a little bit of relief and a little bit of different texture. We have this line that cuts across here, which I think is supposed to be a reinforced sort of beam that runs right through, and you can actually see that in the Ultimate or the Unbelievable cross-section book, whatever it's called. you can see where they've peeled the hull away, and you can still see this underneath, like it's a really, integral support beam that runs right through there. So obviously you had to make sure that that was coiled out on the surface, and it's actually just held in place. I think there's a single attachment stud right here, a single jumper underneath here, and then the structure of it just sits on top of what's there, and it's 2 plates thick on the areas where there's flat tiles underneath, and then it gets to be 1 plate thick on the areas where there are studs underneath. So obviously I can't have that, be the 2 plate thickness there. You get it. So yeah, there's that. And then obviously this large gap here is to accommodate the Republic logo. So this is just literally just a cutout, and then I've reinforced with a lot of extra plates under here that I don't have elsewhere. Most of this is 3 plates thick max. Some of it's even 2. And then, this is obviously reinforced because we're hanging a large structure on this, and there's a big hole which obviously cuts out, on the structural stability of it. And then before I put that back, let me just show you here. I have the recessed little greebly trenches here, and we've got lots and lots and lots of fine detail going on in there. Odd little pieces. You got an old brown color spear, walkie-talkie, a sword, lots of weapons, because this is the Venator, and after all, Venator means hunter. So I wanted it to be very aggressive, even in the greeblies. So we've got a couple of cutlasses back there and some other things too. So yeah, and then there's my dog down there. So yeah, there you go. That's that. Let me put let me show you these first. So previously I had these, just the circle parts built to actually make the roundness of the logo itself. So then I duplicated that, so I have a second one here. And I actually think this is the second one. Anyway, doesn't matter. Oh, no, this is the first one. This is the second one. Really doesn't matter. And then I built around it, so it was actually really tricky building out. So, studs facing this way, and then interfacing with this area where studs are facing that way. And then these are all the panel pieces here that allow for to catch on to the lip of the actual ship and hold it in place. And then in here we have some upside down slopes, and then mixed in with that is a cheese slope that's held on in the back through this assembly right here. Oops, focus, there you go. So that's just holding the cheese wedge in, so it's a 1x2 that goes right through that hole there. So yeah, lots of interesting techniques that I had to use there, and making use of this briquettes piece right here. All the stickered and tiled elements here, just sticking them on the back because you can't see them at the end of the day. The clones will be able to see them from inside the Venator, but we won't. And then this just fits in, and like I said, here we have the panel pieces that are just designed to grab onto the edge. Let's place it in here. Never done this one-handed before. Let's see how it goes. And then I just have to kind of wiggle it a little bit because the shape, it's a little bit of a tight fit. Make sure I don't push on it too hard and actually knock the Venator over. And then when I want to pull this out again, I have just integrated these little pieces right here. So there's one on this side, but on the other side I was more sensible and I made 2, one on either corner, so I could pick this up. But here I just have to peel up the one corner. It's fine. And then this just sits in place very, very securely. Like it's not going anywhere, and that's exactly how I wanted it to be. All right, so there you go. There it is with the 2 Republic logos in place. And my God, look at the size of this freaking thing. This is insane. I cannot believe that I'm building a 10-foot long model and that I already have 5 feet of it done. That's absolutely crazy. So there you go. I really like how this looks. I do wish that it wasn't so obvious that this was its own thing, sub-assembly that's sitting in here, because obviously the rest of it has this very stable set of studs and then tiles, and that pattern is very uniform throughout. And then here at the back we get to this section here. I can just tell that it's inserted, but at the end of the day I think the logo looks great, and I don't think there's really a better way that I could achieve that, so I'm just gonna go with it. And there's no way in hell I'm changing it because I absolutely love how it looks. So yeah, it just kind of, you live with it, it's fine. And there that is. So yeah, let me attach the back section of the frame back on here, and I'll tell you some of the changes I made on that and why, and what's next for the Venator. All right, so here is the rest of the frame in place. It actually is less complete than in the last update. and that is because I am reworking large chunks of it. So I previously had the hangar bay extending out to back here, and then this sort of ending little capper here with the doors was back here, and then there was sort of this large cavern here that leads down to the hangar bay below. And what I was finding is that I was either going to have to add another support leg right where this hangar bay wants to be in order to make it work, or risk having this whole thing just sort of collapse on me after a time. So obviously I didn't want that. So what I ended up doing is moving the hangar bay, shortening it up a little bit, moving this forward to be more in line with actually what we see in like the incredible cross sections and other depictions of the ship anyway. And then we're ditching this hole that goes right the way through to the underside hangar bay, which is going to come up here. And I think that's actually more canon accurate to many, many depictions of the Venator anyway. So the idea here is to, and also I had some geometrical issues here where, so I've reworked this side, that side still needs to get done, but where things weren't lining up quite right and it was creating some stress on the frame. And then I also had a major disaster where I snapped this entire section of the frame off. So it was a whole thing. So yeah, I'm beginning the process now of turning this from a sketch into an actual frame that can sustain weight. So that's just a ton of reinforcing. So you can see here like little things like brackets top and bottom with tiles to hold things in place, running extra support beams across, and then super duper bulking those up with Technic reinforcement all around. And then not having a giant hole in the structure here will definitely help with structural stability. So that's where that is at. So next time I'm aiming to have this frame complete and hopefully continuing the underside plating of the hull most, if not all the way through back here, so that I can, so basically I'm mirroring what I did with the front half, right, where I did the underside plates first, figure out the dimensions, get all of that hung, so all of the string pieces that I'm going to have to order more because I'm out of those. But yeah, having those then connect into the frame, and then going from there and figuring out what I want to do for the top side. The good thing is that all of the sort of major functionality of the Venator, as far as what I'm depicting, is mainly up here. Back here, we're going to have a hangar bay that's going to function as a little thing you can look in, and maybe I'll have opening doors, maybe I won't. I probably will. But, there's that, so it's sort of tucked away on the side. But this, it's the entire length of the thing here has these opening doors and this big hollow trench running through it. So I don't have to worry about anything quite that extreme back on this end. So we're going to have, the hull plating continue all the way back. There's the recessed pits here for the guns. And then above we have the superstructure that runs up to the bridge, of course, one of which I have built already. So, I kind of am just, I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I have an idea in mind of how this is all going to shake out. I just have to start the work of actually getting the parts and, buying all the parts and then putting them in place. Patreon.com/2bricks. And then I'll actually sign up for channel memberships too. So you can become a member of the channel and get emojis or something. I don't know. YouTube kept bugging me to do it and I've done it. So it's a different way to support me if you don't want to be a patron or if you don't want to buy instructions. Totally fine. No worries. Just like the video if you want to support or comment if you cannot support monetarily. Absolutely love all of that stuff. Thank you so much. But to continue, I'm going to have to do a ton of reinforcement under here. There's going to be this huge sort of thin sail type thing that runs right the way under here. That is going to have to be the support where the engines, because the engines are coming all the way back out here, these huge, cylindrical structures, they're going to have to sort of tie into the central frame there. So there's just so much frame that has to happen in here. This is just, like I said, this is just a sketch of the outline at this point, So yeah, tons and tons and tons of work to do in terms of just laying brick. So, and we actually just had a major wave of releases of Lego Star Wars sets, some of which I want to review and modify. So I will be taking a little break from doing this for a little while and going over to that. And then I'll return to this. Although, the way that I usually do these is I work on the Venator for a little while, I make small changes, I make small updates, and then I'll kind of reach a tipping point where I'm like, I just want to work on this now. And that's why I've been absent from YouTube for the last month, because I've just been working on this pretty much the entire time, except for when I did my Simpsons build for my Patreon exclusive build of the month. And I did also my How to Train Your Dragons. I've been working on those. But, those are small. And also all of my other instructions and things that I'm doing. My goodness, so many things. But anyways, so yeah, I'll kind of work on this in sections and stages, a little bit, and then I'll kind of have a big push, and then we'll get the next Venator update. So yeah, lots going on. My goodness. I do still have to make my next installment of Hogwarts as well, so that is still in the works. A lot of people got mad at me for unlisting my Harry Potter videos last time. C'est la vie. But the next update for the actual castle model is coming, so you guys will be able to get your hands on that if you're waiting for that as well. So, whew, I'm exhausted just even thinking about it. And before I go, last thing, I forgot to mention, I did extend the legs, so I have another section of leg back here. So these are new. So the whole Venator has been raised up, and this is now the height where I'm comfortable having it, I think, where I'll be able to display my other ships in the microfleet in and around it well enough, and the ones that don't fit I'll just have to put in separate areas because I don't want to raise this up any higher and risk structural issues or tipping over or anything. And in fact, what I want to do is build a base that is going to connect all of the legs for the top, the front half together, and then a separate base is going to connect all of the bottom half or the back half of the legs together, and then those will click together when you connect the ship. Those will also go click, and then I'll be able to reinforce the join in the middle, and then I'll have a much stronger and wider base of support than I have currently, because these help a lot. But still, if I was to ever seriously bump this, like fall over, lose my balance, hit the Venator, it could very well all go tumbling over. So that's probably first priority, actually, is getting that going before I do any of this frame structural stability stuff, because I can just remove this section, work on that, get that done, and then come back to here. So that's probably what I'll do next, to be honest. Because, yeah, we don't want all of this beauty that we see before us to be smashed into a million pieces, because I don't think I'll have the will to rebuild it. I may even not have the will to live if that happened, honestly. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, so that's going to do it for the video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to get to my Patreon shout out of the video next, and then that's it for today. I just do want to thank everybody again who's donating their money, literally giving me money to build this project. You're helping to literally purchase its existence out of nothing. So thank you so much. And we'll see if we can get the character avatars up and running for the next video. And then I should probably figure out a way that I can actually see that without having to remove this entire section. So we'll see. I'll come up with a plan for that. But yeah, thank you guys again so much. And now on to my Patreon shout out of the video. I've had actually quite a few folks sign up recently that I haven't had a chance to shout out yet because I just haven't been making videos because I've been busy making this Venator. So today I just wanted to start off by shouting out two relatively new members. That's Panya W and Iggy. You guys are obviously, like everybody else that I'm shouting out in my Patreon shoutouts, are helping me to get all of this stuff done. I just haven't had a chance to shout you out yet up until now. So thank you guys for the support. And today's other shout out goes to Gianni Burgundy, who, this is your third shout out. So I just wanted to get you your Star Wars character artwork today. So Gianni, I'm assigning you the character of GINE, which is an HK assassin droid that has been put back together, revived, and was sent on a mission to murder one of our actually pre-existing characters. That's Nosriv Tox, the force-powered farmer who's growing force-sensitive plants. And GINE actually failed in their mission and was reprogrammed to now become a helper, and actually is a farmer's assistant droid. So you can see there we have the lightsaber pitchfork, which is used for snipping and gathering crops and helping Nosriv with his project to spread knowledge of the light side of the Force through plants and plant life and crops and things of that sort. So GINE is definitely living a much more peaceful life now, and I think that he actually likes it. In fact, he took it upon himself to paint up his blue color scheme there as an ode to the blue robes that his master wears. So there you go. That's my character for you, Gianni. I hope that you like it. This was a lot of fun.
If you too want to get your own Star Wars character avatar and original lore and backstory based off of your name, then you can sign up for the relevant tier on Patreon, patreon.com/2bricks. Everything helps. And if you guys do want to support the channel in other ways, of course, liking, commenting, subscribing is free, and that helps a ton. And you can, of course, head on over to my Rebrickable store as well, and you can purchase anything that you like there. So yeah, I've got a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of different ways to support the project monetarily, and everybody who does that, I thank you so much for the support. You're literally making this project possible. So I'm going to get to work on the next video. I have so many more to bring you guys. There's, like I mentioned earlier on, I'm overwhelmed by just how many things I have to do. So I'm going to quickly go and get started on that because, yeah, more is on the way very soon. So I'll hope to see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.